So good morning, everyone. Welcome to our last webinar of the year, our December webinar for 2024 predictions, with again a focus on new customer acquisition. So this is going to be in a little bit of a different format to what we're used to. We're no slides. It's going to be much more of a conversation between myself, Andy and David, and we're just going to chat about what we think are going to be really important for e-commerce marketers and luxury retail coming into next year. So we're going to get started straight away. But as always, if you've got any questions or any opinions on anything that we're talking about, drop it in the comments. We'll either address it immediately or we'll come back to you offline after the webinar's finished. So Andy, we'll head straight over to you. Most important thing that we need to be aware of going into 2024, what do you think that's going to be?
That's interesting. I think there's a few things, but the main thing that is quite clear that I've seen is that there's very much a shift from the way in which products have been marketed over the last, say, 15, 20 years to how they started to be marketed in 2022, 23, and I think how they're going to be marketed in 2024. And that is, years ago, brands used to start with a product that they did some market research and they thought that the audience would like. They built the product, they did some small testing on a small audience segment, and then they went to market with it and tried to find a wider audience. So it was very much product first, then make it fit or make it deliver to a wider audience and build sort of revenue that way. How it seems to be now is it's almost the opposite way around. And I'll give two examples of this. So it's actually build the audience first now, or the community, as I think it'll be called in 2024, and then apply the product to the audience. So two great examples of this. One is Jamie Lang and Candy Kitten. So when the Jamie launched Candy Kitten, they didn't have any sweets to sell. So they built this audience following as part of Made in Chelsea, and he built this sort of brand around selling something called Candy Kitten to his audience, but he didn't quite know what that was. And so he actually spent about 2 years building the product. So the audience waited for 2 years until they could actually buy sweets. And in his own admission, when he launched the sweets weren't very good. So he spent the following 5 years perfecting the recipes and the suppliers and the delivery and all the rest of it. And his audience waited. So the power of community and building a community and building a following and building an audience and then looking at the product is probably a shift that's happening. And if you look at Logan Paul and KSI launching Prime, same thing again. They had this massive YouTube audience that they built up over many, many years, sat down and thought, right, what product should we sell to our audience? And they came up with an energy drink and almost were an overnight sensation. So I think it's focusing on new customers in 2024, and how you do that is via building communities in front of people, engaging, bringing them on board and into your world and letting them know what your story is, and then sell the product.
So with regards to that, obviously the two examples that you've given have been from brands where like a public figure is very much at the core. If you were an established brand and you'd been trading, say, for the past 5 years, and you weren't looking for a new product to launch, how would you say you could use those same strategies for an established brand rather than for a new brand? And or if you don't have that kind of public figure or that public face, how would you go about doing that?
I think that the last point you made is what you need to address. I think any CEO or any founder needs to really be in the public eye now. I think years and years ago, CEOs were somebody that was left in a boardroom and never really sort of spoken of. I think leader-founded businesses are a thing in 2024, and I think leader-driven businesses in the public is something that's really, really important. So I think that's most important. The second thing is, you've got to, and we've talked about this a lot in these webinars, you've got to somehow find a way to cut through a lot of messages that the target audience get, and you've got to cut through very quickly, and you've got to entertain them and capture them and bring them into your world very quickly. And so marketing teams, in my mind, should spend most of their time early 2024 thinking about how do they do that. And often it's telling a story, but there's a skill and a knack to that. You can't just try and be funny if your brand isn't funny, or you can't try and make people cry if your brand is selling shoes. So you've got to really think about how you do that. And so definitely founders and of existing and new businesses need to be more front and facing. They need to lead the brand charge, as it were, and we need to think of creative ways, particularly to stop new customers in the tracks and build that community. That's what I'm seeing as a thing and a trend.
Yeah, I think just to add to that as well, obviously there are going to be brands that have CEOs or a board who don't necessarily want to be in the public eye, and I think that's okay. An alternative to that would be to find somebody, whether that's someone who's already in your business who works for you, or whether that's some kind of brand ambassador or a public figure that you can use where their audience aligns with you and your ethics and everything that you stand for as a business, and almost like striking up an agreement, almost like an influencer marketing type style agreement. But you've seen it with like Pretty Little Thing appointing Molly May as a creative director, and although she might not be sitting in every single board of directors meetings, having her there as a figurehead was really important for the brand. So I think there are other ways that you could potentially look at it if your CEO or anyone in upper management doesn't have that drive to be the face of the business. I think there are still other cleverer ways that you can go about doing that as well.
Yeah, I also think there's two ways to build community. That there's one which is your own brand vision angle, which is you create and craft your own story and tell it how you want it to come across and how you think will best engage with your audience. The other side, which is going to be big, has already been big since sort of 2020 really, but is I think going to continue down this vein in 2024, is the user-generated side of the community building. So almost allowing license to a certain degree for other people to create their own stories and their own thoughts about your brand as well. And so influencer marketing, using user-generated content and allowing that to sort of gather momentum is a really good way to build an audience, particularly for newer businesses. Because you've got to, in the retail space, if you're in the fashion space like we work quite often in, you've got to really get some cut through and a point of difference and a personality across very quickly. And just via traditional PR or traditional storytelling through digital channels can take some time. And what speeds that up is actually getting some kind of creator landscape built up as well. And that's where a lot of the time when people call it, say products have gone viral, a lot of the time it's because it's just resonated and they've seeded those products into communities and allowed creators to sort of run with a narrative of their own. And that, I think we just need to, as fashion brands, we need to allow the reins to go a little bit in order to grow as well.
Yeah, definitely. And David, from your perspective, you spend a lot of time in platform, kind of looking at the performance of, for instance, any user-generated content versus branded content and things like that. How do you think in 2024 brands should be going about kind of testing effectiveness of different types of creative and things like that? How do you think things might change, or what strategies brands should be using to get the most out of the creative that they have?
So what I believe and what I'm seeing is that in 2024, there will be a confirmation of the movement that started previously. And those movements are, I would focus on three aspects related to what you just guys said. One, the transformation of the platforms in machine learning and AI powerhouse vs targeting powerhouse as it used to be before. And so just in a nutshell, what it is before the marketers liked the idea that they could target a 30 years old person with their gender and their occupation and maybe their social level, etc. Now today, the platforms are moving to let our algo do their thing. And there's nothing you can do about it, because if you go against the algo, usually you're the loser, and we've seen a few examples. And so I see a confirmation in that. Now, related to what you said is that what I can add to the mix is that, yes, platforms and paid social today is an incredible opportunity to test the message and to bridge the gap between what founders believe. So usually they come up with a product and like, whoa, but that's so amazing. I mean, I need to go to the market with that. And now with paid social, and this is something we specialize here at RGA, is testing an idea, testing a message, testing a product, testing a persona, testing maybe a brand ambassador, maybe not a specific person, but a type of person. And so today with those platforms, there's a way to, let's say you're a creator, or let's say you start your business and it's not hitting the target quite as you would want it. There's a way to revisit the way you started thing, and adjust and find your conversion path, your optimized user journey, your optimized message, and sometimes also the way to say things. And so I can see a terrifying message in for some people in what you just said before, as create community, start to build audiences, but that kind of resonates like, whoa, but are these guys saying that we need to go into the content creation business? And so I would say here, thanks to paid social and the tools we have today, not necessarily. You could build a message, and you could take, maybe not a specific person as an influencer or somebody at the board, but you could just test actors or specific type of person to broadcast your message. And I think the message is the key, and that we could use the power of data and the paid social platform in order to engineer that message and then spread out to the world. So in a nutshell, in conclusion, yes, to put out a show. And I think today brands, companies need to provide a show to hook up the attention of people, to define their own personality and their own message and their own differentiation to the market. So, and this is not just, it doesn't necessarily take 2 years of content and community building. So there's a way to do it shortly, effectively, quickly, and hit target.
Yeah, I think you mentioned a word there, David, that I am fascinated with, and that word is attention. I think to capture someone's attention is so much more difficult now, because we are inundated with ads. We're surrounded by ads every day, and kind of so many different types of content as well, that it can be really tricky if the message isn't really clear and it's not concise, and it's also not, if it's not delivered quickly, you can lose the attention of a user very, very quickly. It's so easy just to scroll past things these days, unless you're being forced to watch an ad by a paid social platform, which does happen. So I think that's something that brands should really be bearing in mind when they're coming up with ideas for campaigns, and it's how quickly can we capture their attention, and how effective is the ad, both from a visual and also from an auditory perspective, in terms of being able to capture and keep attention. YouTube is a really good example of actually being able to measure that to a certain extent, and I think Facebook and Meta might be the same in terms of being able to see view-through rates and how long people are watching the ads for before they're scrolling. And I think incorporating some of those metrics into testing can be really effective to see actually how well are we capturing attention, and then kind of, tweaking creative, maybe tweaking the different scenes within a video. So, actually is it worth putting the end scene at the beginning, because that's where the hook is. And, there's so many different things that brands can be doing that, are not time consuming and are not particularly costly, that can really help kind of get the most out of the creative that you currently have.
The other thing as well is landing page testing. So both for organic traffic and paid traffic is testing different pages to drive people to, because you can have a perfect new audience, new customer being built, and you're bringing them back to the website on a particular page that just doesn't resonate with them. And so you could be doing all of this really good community marketing work and building audiences and getting your brand story out there and doing it in a really clever and creative way and stopping your target customer in the tracks. Well, then you bring them through to a page that just doesn't work for them. So one of the things that we do a lot of is landing page testing, and we'll do more of in 2024, is looking at where are the customers across the spectrum of audiences that are driving, where are we taking those people to, and could they be better driven to another place?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. Testing is vital. And I was exactly going with the same point, Andy, as you, which is companies need to incorporate testing massively into their marketing strategy and work. Avoid at all costs, biased opinion or doing things they like or they don't like, because it's what the market likes, which matters the most. And I think there should be a mindset shift also in what is testing. And again, like building community, building an audience could be frightening, terrifying, because it sounds like it's going to be long, very, very expensive. And testing is the same. Today at RGA, we work with small data, which means that, today, what does it cost you and how long does it take to generate 1,000 impressions to test a message? And 1,000 impression is quite already a very good sample to work on. And it costs between £6 and £12. So imagine how many tests you can do. And as Daniel said earlier, should you put your hook in the beginning in order to grab attention until the last scene of the video in the beginning, and shorten your intro, which is usually where people drop out, then you have an opportunity to throw maybe 10 iteration of your video in the mix, test them, and what's your winner. And if you do that every step of your funnel, I had a mentor who said 2% win at 3 or 10 steps. If you compound that, is a huge growth. So you can also take your financial director on board with that, with this kind of equation.
Also, just a quick one on testing as well. One thing that's come up recently, we work with a few seasonal brands, and the assumption within the brand was that when the sort of northern hemisphere is in its winter sort of period, or parts of the northern hemisphere are in its winter period, that they would want to see winter looking ads from what is a summer brand. So we ran a test, we put some winter looking ads for a summer brand targeting winter countries, and then we also put in summer looking ads targeting winter countries for the summer brand. And what the test improved is that actually people in the UK, in their cold, snowy offices, it's really easy to stop new customers in the tracks by showing them, an amazing, pair of legs with an amazing pair of shoes walking down a beach in a sunset in Greece, So I think sometimes people's perception of what their audience wants is very different. And what you're saying, David, is actually put the misconceptions and the sort of, all of those things to one side, and for £6 to £12 and 1,000 impressions, you get your answer very quickly.
Yeah, and I think you touched upon something, Andy, about kind of expectations in terms of testing landing pages, and I think that from a consumer point of view, the expectations of what the experience should be like from a user's point of view is not really going to change that much. So personalization has been huge since kind of 2020, 2021, when everyone was buying things online. And there's a certain look to a website that users are expecting, there's a certain experience that they're expecting from clicking through to an ad. And I think that can't be taken for granted. And brands are constantly trying to innovate and trying to make things more tech savvy or more aesthetically pleasing, and sometimes that can be to the detriment actually of what the user's expecting. And I think coming from a luxury perspective, personalization is really important, because those people who are spending more money on a luxury product want to have a personal experience. They want to feel like they have a really strong relationship with the brand. the brand sometimes thinks that they need to be doing extraordinary things, but actually sometimes keeping things simple, and I'm coming mostly from a website perspective, is actually better, because a user is expecting to see a certain navigation on a website. They're expecting to see their shopping cart in the top right hand corner. They expect to click the logo and go back to the home page. There are certain things that a user will always expect, no matter what product they're buying or what socioeconomic class they sit in. And I think that's a really important thing. We're constantly innovating. Things are constantly getting more automated, more driven from an algorithm and things like that. But actually, sometimes keeping it really simple and keeping the experience really simple and really consistent is one of the better things that we can be focusing on in next year, in terms of being able to acquire new customers, because you want things to be easy. You know, you don't want buying something to be complicated, because then you just won't buy it.
Yeah. Sorry, David, go on.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think more than personalized, what you want today is having an experience that feels familiar. And it's very important. I mean, I always thought it's psychology. And so we've seen a convergence. Let's take mobile phones. In the beginning, you had the Motorola that was, folding. You had the Ericsson, you had the Nokia, you had the Sony, you had the whatever. Today, basically, most phones looks like that. You have, that big screen, and whether you have Android, Samsung, iPhone, they pretty much look the same in the experience. Now, an Android and iPhone is becoming more and more similar. It's the same for e-com. People get, today, what takes the lion's share of e-commerce? Amazon and Shopify. And I don't know what's the percentage of it, but people shop on those websites every day. Now, I don't know if you've seen, but the checkout page of Amazon and Shopify looks more and more the same. And most e-com today are Shopify's. And so I think we stumbled across, one of our clients had this issue where their website was great, but it didn't quite look like something people would know. And it was very different than Shopify and Amazon. And so our test proved that coming back to something that looked like, what an e-commerce shopper would expect, although to get back to conversion rate and avoid massive dropout rate at checkout. And so that's psychology. What's familiar is reassuring, is comforting. You feel it's legit. And if you watch at most of the scam today, the scam which works because they feel legit. So, and legit is familiar. Everything seems fine. And people will drop their guard and just move forward. So yeah, I think familiar is really the key in a world where everything more and more looks the same, and all the experience, there's a mainstream feeling of an experience, and if you don't, get on the wagon, you might be left out.
Yeah, it's finding that balance, isn't it? Because we've talked about how ads need to stand out and be different and display a message, and I think it's finding the blend between an ad experience being like thumb stopping, scroll stopping, but then the website experience being something that's really familiar to them, and it's not, catching them out, because you want your ads to capture attention, and then you need the website experience to be something that's easy, and as you said, David, familiar, which I think is a really good way of explaining it. And just going back to kind of Amazon, I think always leading the forefront in terms of e-commerce experience. I buy a lot of stuff off Amazon, and on the app, I don't even have to fill anything out now. It's like swipe to buy now. It uses facial recognition, and then the thing's in my house the next day. Like, it's so simple. So if I'm greeted with a 4-page form that I have to fill out, I'm either not going to bother, or I'm going to be really, really annoyed about the fact that I'm going to have to fill it all out.
Yeah, and I think all of this is pointing towards data, isn't it, as well? How we measure audience and how we build it and how we look at tests from landing pages and all that sort of stuff points towards data and collecting it. And this is another thing for 2024 that I think brands are going to struggle with as we get less and less visibility of the audiences and the data and what they're doing and where they're coming from. due to the privacy issues. We know now Google, I believe, this week have started phasing out their third-party cookie usage, and that will complete next year. And that's the final browser then that is that will not allow third-party data to be tracked or third-party tracking to be used. So there's two solutions to that. There is, you can migrate to server tracking, which helps get a bigger picture of your data. But I think what needs to happen is that brands need to understand the growing dark web, they call it, or dark social. It's people that you are driving to your website that you can't see. That doesn't mean that they're any less valuable. It doesn't mean that they're going to buy less. It just means that you can't see them. And so what marketing teams are having to do is move to more broader measurement metrics when it comes to ROAS or ROI, depending on which angle they're looking at. And what I mean by that is that if you've got 5 channels to market and they're all equal, and you increase investment in one of them, and your overall revenue and your overall profit goes, what marketing teams are going to have to do is have to have the ability to say, well, actually, if all other 3 or 4 channels are the same, that the increases most likely come from that one channel that we spent more time and energy on, and be a bit more pragmatic about looking at things on a holistic point of view. As a performance marketing agency, primarily, which is what we are, we, over many years, have been taught to look at the minutiae of detail. And what we're having to do, and what brands are having to do, is take a step back and look more at the macro and less at the micro. And so by doing that, you'll still get great growth, you'll still be able to build new audiences, and all the things we need to do. But probably from a reporting to CEOs and FDs, we're going to have to look at a different way of engaging those departments into the measurement of success. So that's another thing that I think brands need to sort of get their head around as things start going a bit darker in 2024.
I also think, while we're on the topic of reporting and kind of bringing again back in kind of the user behavior and what we expect to see, the way that people are starting to, the way people are shopping now is different. You know, purchase journeys generally are a hell of a lot longer than what we've seen. There's more and more touch points as more platforms come to the surface, and people are starting to, you know, cross-browse, and, you know, generally it's just a lot more considered, especially for higher priced products. You know, it's not like toilet paper or shampoo where it's like you need it so you buy it. You know, it's something that's far more thought out. Just having bottom of funnel ads, and we talk about this a lot, just having bottom of funnel ads, it's very easy to be able to report ROI because someone clicks on an ad, they buy, happy days, you can attribute that revenue back to the channel. That's not really the case anymore because you've got more brand activity running, you've got video running on multiple different channels, you've got email that's then nurturing people that have signed up and all of that kind of thing. It's so messy that just looking at channel ROAS or channel ROI, I don't think is ever going to give you a clear picture really of how the entire strategy is working. So being able to take a step back and actually, you know, maybe using an attribution platform that's going to be able to knit all of those platforms together is a far more effective way of seeing how the strategy's working, rather than just, you know, getting ROAS data from each platform and saying, well, that's not working and that's not working. It might not be driving revenue at the bottom of the funnel, but we know from experience that it might be introducing new customers to a brand who then convert elsewhere. So by dialing back budget on that particular channel, you could actually be switching the tap off that's generating revenue somewhere else. You just don't know without stepping back and having a look at it kind of from a bird's eye view. I don't know if you agree, David.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. There are two things very important. Is that one, people, companies, and even I think data science needs to be some kind of prism for brand marketing and you know, decision makers, marketing decision maker of companies, to see the reality as it is. A bit like, you know, in the movie Matrix, when you had this guy staring at zeros and numbers falling down, and he could see a situation through that. So, I mean, Matrix is very unreadable, but data science can interpret and help people to interpret. And I think there's reality to that a lot of people in companies need to get a hold on, and they're far from it. And we help our customer every day to bridge the gap between what they think is happening and what really is happening. And as expert, we even come with a very cautious statement. Like it could suggest it might be because if at some point we claim that we understood, we had figured out, yeah, this is what it is. No, you need to be always questioning and be very cautious when you make a statement. But I think so far we've been doing pretty good, because usually when we had assumption that data showed us, and we verified them, and usually we managed to solve a lot of problem our customers had. But 100%, the data needs to be the next deciphering tool to reality. And one big reality that a lot of companies are missing today is that we are in a multi-touch, multi-interaction shopping journey. You need to see brands. So the marketing always attributes this quote to David Ogilvy in the 50s, but it's been proven to be wrong or whatever. But I think that the sense is still very, very true. They said it takes 7 interactions, or the consumer needs to see your brand 7 times to start to trust it and think it's familiar, and know, like, trust it. But in the shopping experience, in the e-com experience, people will have to see your ads possibly several times, and several kinds of ads. And this is also what we're testing today for our customer. What do we show first? What is the sequence? What does the sequence need to be? Is it a video first, and we don't even make an offer, and we don't even show our product, and we just show our vision of the world, what the world is according to our company, our mission statement, what we offer to the world in general, without being very specific on the offer or the product or what we sell. And then we move to maybe show our product in situation with the persona, getting a benefit from product, and then ultimately we just show a product carousel with prices, and then click buy now. These are a lot of questions, and the answer is different for everyone, and so this is why I need testing. But again, the main point of what I just said is, I think data science and brand marketings and marketers needs to sit together and try to see the world for what it is.
Amazing. Well, on that note, we are out of time. So hopefully you found that all insightful, and you've been able to take some kind of key things away with you for building your 2024 strategy. As I mentioned before, any questions, fire them across to us. We're also all on LinkedIn, so you can find us there if you want to contact any of us directly. Andy, any last things to add as we close out the year?
Just obviously you two didn't get the Christmas jumper memo. It's just me, is it?
Yeah, just you.
Got lost somewhere.
Christmas, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. See you in the new year.
Bye.